Ek klim vir 'n treinrit wat my glo my lewe gaan weerspieël. Klomp stasies op my pad. Sommige mooier as ander, maar elk uniek. En dan die moerkoffie, die lewe se vernis, rond, vol, geurig en vol smaak, ryk en lekker. Drink hom slukkie vir slukkie, geniet hom. Laat hy oor die tong rol, want by jou stasie is die rit verby. Die rit weet te flits van die geheue.
Okay, let's make a deal. That's a good point. I'll take it. Best negotiation I had today.
Yes, my vriend. Hoe lyk dinge daar by jou kant? Wat sal nie gebeur? Skid die dinge nog. Lekker man, weer mooi weer hier in die Oos-Kaap. Die tyd van die jaar, Augustus, September, baie mooi weer. Dis sulke lui lekker somers daar. Temperature maksimum so 2-23 grade. Nie te veel wind nie en sunny skies en amper sê nou Chevrolet. Ja, so dit is absoluut lekker exquisite weer, maar terwyl ek so met die Moerkoffie Express ry, ek het hom gevat vir 'n diens. En so man, is 'n klein diensie gewees, 75.000 kilos. Niks te om oor opgewonde te raak nie, is so regular 2.500 rand wat die was. Maar, as jy nou hierdie caddies ken, as jy weet, dat hulle het skuifdeure beide kante, wat het baie gerieflik maak, lekker maak vir mense om uit te klim en so tot in 'n baie nou parkeerarea, so dit is great stuff. Maar binne in die deure is daar nie gewone vensters wat elektries is, wat afrol in sy vol vorm nie. Dis basies sulke klein venstertjies wat met 'n knipwerk aan die binnekant waar jy net trek en dan skuif jy dit oop. Op soos jou patio deur sal oopmaak, skuif jy dit toe. Ek het so 'n tyd terug opgemerk dat die regterkant se ene hier agter my, as jy buitekant staan, is hy nie flush met die res van daai groot glaspaneel nie. Toe kyk ek te steek binne onder en lyk dit amper asof al so 'n roesigheidjie is. En toe ek nou die kar vir die diens vat, toe sê ek vir die ou, kyk sommer vir my daarna oop. Toe sê hy nou vir my, nee, jy sien daai ding net binne, is alles plastiek. En swart en aluminium wat swart gemaak is. Maar aan die onderkant en aan die bokant, binne in daai aan die binnekant, die glaspaneel is daar die slides nie. Daar is 2 slides, want die slides word vasgehou teen 'n metaalplaatjie wat net inknip aan die binnekant van die deur en daai 2 slides presies daar hou waar hulle moet wees en dan klip die hele ding net in. Toe sê hy vir my Volkswagen is bekend daarvoor al vir jare van die Golf 2's af. As jy die advertensie kan onthou van die GTI, die Golf 2, daai het so 'n olifant omgedop en dan spuit hy water oral met sy slim. So advertensie dat dit roes nie hoekom nie, omrede Volkswagen het jare gelede gegaan en begin met hulle plaat waarmee julle die bakpanele goed maak, is alles ook die alwenaarste. Maar nou, die ouens wat die vensters vir Volkswagen vervaardig, ek glo nie, hulle vervaardig het self, julle kry van iemand af. Die caddies word anyway ingevoer van Europa of van Duitsland. Daai ou stukkie plaat, wat nou onderkant daai plastiek sit, wat nou indruk, wat die ding nou, die plastiek ding nou daar hou, die slaai, het nou geroes, nou het hy losgekom op die een kant. So nou sê ek vir hom, ja, Jessie, maar moet seker maar net 'n ander slide koop. Toe waarsku hy my klaar, toe sê vir my, jy weet, Volkswagen werk goed nie so nie, baie van die motorvervaardigers werk nie so nie. Toe sê hy vir my, wie wat gaan gebeur, en dan gaan vir jou daai hele glaspaneel met daai venstertjie binne in, gaan hulle vir jou verkoop. En hy was reg. Kom hy terug aan my toe sê vir my, daai glaspaneel moet jy in sy volle koop, met daai venstergedeelte wat daar ingaan, en die slides dan net met die plaatjie wat verroes het. Weet jy wat kost dit my ou vriend? 17.500 rand, ja let wel, 17,500. En hier kom het nou, dan moet daar nog wet opkom, nog 15% opkom, maar die regering moet ook sy geldjie kry. So het gaan nie by die 20.000 rand draai, toe sê ek vir hom, weet jy wat, lok hom net, dat niemand hom kan oopmaak nie. En so wat, so ek gaan nou, maar ek gaan waarskynlik, as ek het recht kry, en ek glo ek gaan het recht kry, want het is dood eenvoudig een stukkie gebuigde plaat. Ek gaan nog wit gaan raak, ek gaan die plaat laat buig in een paar micron stainless steel. So hy gaan nie meer roes nie. So, hou die, weet jy, hele dagboek van my top, vernies by die ding. Ek gaan die ding rechtmaak vir 100.000 rand. Maar anyway, ja, dit wys maar net vir jou, weer eens, jy weet, lande, ekonomieë en daai tipe van goed, en dit geld vir die meeste lande, al die goedes word in dollar verhandel. En ek vraag myself die vraag al vir jare af, en ek glo jy ook dan, hoekom moet dit 'n ton is 'n dollar wees? Vir wat? Wat ek meen, moet ons geldstelsels in dollar verhandel? Dit is mos absolute rubbish. Alles moet in Amerikaanse dollar verhandel word. So daai ding, wat ek weet die dollar raak op die 16, 17 rand, as dit nou 17.000 rand is, met ander woorde kost dit net $1,000 eindelijk. Wat niks is in Amerika, $1,000 nie. So, ja, dit is iets wat my nog al die jare frustreer. Is hierdie Amerikaanse dollar. Nou kom allemaal so, ja maar BRICS. Ons kan die BRICS bekostig nie, want dan wat gaan Amerika? Amerika kan in my mening met sy moeren vlieg. Moerkoffie toe met hulle. Wat ek meen. Ek dink ons het regtig 'n nuwe geldstelsel nodig in die wêreld. Dit is waarmee die Chinese besig is. So ek ondersteun daai inisiatief ten volle. Down with the dollar, down with Donald Trump.
Sien jy, dis wat gebeur, as jy lekker lang pad vat, en jy ry, en jy kry jou gedagtes agter mekaar. Spesifiek as jy so 'n groot skok gekry het, dat mense vir 'n stukkie, dis eintlik nie eens werklik 'n glas nie, is halwe perspex, met 'n skyfvenster hier, 20.000 rand wil vra, dan begin die realiteit inskop. Wat kos dit ons, in hierdie land, en baie lande, om die Amerikaanse dollar te aanbid? Maar dit noem hulle, let's trade man, let's make a deal, soos Trump altyd sê. Maar die deal is nooit in ons guns nie. Vernaam nie in Afrika nie. Nee, die deal is nie in ons guns nie. Hulle wil alles basies eintlik verniet hê. Ek het met boere destyds gepraat wat jare terug nog in die ou bedeling oor see gegaan het en basies ons produkte raal gaan stoot het. Dit was al na al die sanksies weg was. Ja nee, ons sal 'n piesang by julle vat, maar dan moet jy wel soveel poppels by ons vat. Weet daai tipe van ding. So hierdie hele ou deal-breaking die hele tyd. En nou sit ons nog met hierdie papegaai, wat alles net tjok, vir die groot baase wat sy touwe trek. Maar hierdie week het ons 'n lekker ding gehad, uit Amerika uit. Ou wat in hulle senaat gepraat het, opgestaan het en gesê het, of gevra het, weet die mense daar buite, die Amerikaners, wat kos Donald Trump hulle werklik? Want hy maak al hierdie deals, maar hierdie deals is nie vir die ou daaronder nie. Hierdie deals is om homself te verryk. En sy, by nou al kan 'n ou het met redelike sekerheid sê, sy kriminele familie, crime family, het laat jy dink aan die dae van Al Capone. Die maffia. Hoekom is elke pound aan die einde van die dag tronk toe? Hy is nie tronk vir al die moorde wat hy gepleeg het en laat pleeg het en al daai tipe van goed nie. Hy is tronk toe vir belastingontduiking. So, ek sien 'n ding hier kom. Stadig maar seker. Het gaan Amerika. Die deursnee Amerikaner, daai ene wat Donald van gepraat het en vertel dat let's make America great again. Everything for America. Wat hy nou tot dusver nog nie gedoen het nie. Hy verryk net sy ryk buddies en sy eie familielede.
Mr. President, more than a year and a half ago, when Donald Trump placed his hand on a Bible and took the oath of office for the second time, he swore to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution. In the time since, he has failed to live up to that basic promise. Instead, he has focused laser-like on a very different priority: to preserve, protect, and expand his family's wealth. The payments to the president and his family have been massive. The self-dealing and profiteering have been absolutely breathtaking in their scope. And you don't have to take my word for it. 2 weeks ago, the president filed his annual financial disclosure, signed under penalty of law. It shows more than $2.3 billion in income last year alone. $2.3 billion made by the president in the last year alone. Wow. That is 3.5 times what he reported the year before. So either he's just become a much better businessman since he became president, or he is corruptly using his office to enrich himself. The same can be said for much of the rest of his family. Exposing this corruption is the first necessary step to stopping it. This is important in its own right. Public servants should not be enriching themselves at public expense. But it is even more crucial to root out corruption for another reason. And that is because the cost of corruption is an economy that does not meet the basic needs of the American people. An economy that does not produce housing that average families can afford, or a college education that young people can obtain without mortgaging their future, or quality health care that is accessible, or groceries that don't break the family budget. When the president is fixated only on his family's personal wealth, on the money he can make by abusing the power of his position, on his own vanity projects, gilding the White House, gilding statues, and gilding a ballroom, he has very little time or inclination to address the problems facing ordinary Americans. They are mere afterthought, and the country suffers. That is the true cost of corruption. So today, I'm going to walk you through the top 10 ways this president has turned the Oval Office into a personal revenue stream. The settlements he's collected, the gifts he's pocketed, the money he and his family have extracted from anyone with the misfortune of needing something from this government, and the pet causes he has extorted money to fund. Bear in mind, every number I'm about to give you is either taken from his own financial filing or from public reporting. And because the president seems to enjoy ratings and rankings, we'll count them down from number 10 all the way to number 1 of the top 10 most corrupt self-enrichment schemes of the president. And by the time we reach number 1, we will have tallied billions of dollars for him, for his family, for his personal whims, and nothing for you. That is the cost of corruption. Number 10, overseas licensing. Let's start small, and by small, I mean $23 million. Since his reelection, the Trump family has made it at least $23 million licensing the Trump name overseas. A hotel in Amman, towers in India, golf courses on the outskirts of Riyadh and Doha. These are just a few of the more than 20 overseas projects the Trump administration is now pursuing, many of them requiring the cooperation of foreign governments. And here's the thing about needing help from foreign governments when you happen to be the President of the United States. Those governments are going to want something in return. They're going to want you to treat them very, very favorably in return. These countries all want something from the United States of America. Let's look at just one example, this one from Southeast Asia. The administration agreed to lower its threatened tariffs on Vietnam, but not until after the Trump Organization broke ground on a $1.5 billion Trump golf course complex outside of Hanoi, a golf complex that Vietnamese officials fast-tracked by ignoring their own rules. This kind of overt pay-to-play is playing out in country after country after country. That is the cost of corruption. Number 9, the Paramount-CBS settlement worth $36 million. Number 9 brings us to perhaps one of the most frivolous media lawsuits to ever see the inside of a courtroom. Following a 60 Minutes interview with Vice President Kamala Harris during that presidential campaign, Trump sued CBS, alleging, believe it or not, election interference. His claim that CBS edited the interview to make Harris sound better. Let me remind everyone, most long-form television interviews are edited. That's how television works. But in Trump's reality, editing is election interference if he doesn't like the edits. CBS acknowledged the suit was frivolous. The president had no right to sue because he doesn't like how an interview with someone else is edited. It's absurd. The studio has a First Amendment right to make those decisions for itself. Nevertheless, CBS agreed to pay off the president $16 million. Why? Not because they thought they would lose the litigation. They knew Trump's claim would never be successful. No, CBS agreed to pay off the president because its parent, Paramount Studios, wanted to merge with Skydance in a deal worth $8 billion. What was a $16 million payoff compared to an $8 billion deal? And it wasn't just the $16 million payoff. Skydance also committed to paying another $20 million in advertising and public service announcements favored by the president. Final tally, $36 million. That the president was able to extort because he could leverage his power to kill the merger deal into a personal payoff. So what's the cost of that corruption to you? Well, if you're a worker in the entertainment industry, it just might cost you your job, because a merger that was approved on a corrupt basis and without considering job losses in the industry wasn't made to benefit you. If you're a consumer, you'll be paying more for your streaming service and have fewer choices because this deal wasn't approved with consumers in mind. It was approved to make money for the president. More money for him, fewer jobs for you, and more money out of your pocket when you want to stream your favorite shows. This is the cost of corruption. Number 8, big tech settlements, $60 million. Number 8 is a 3-for-1. Twitter, YouTube, Meta, $60 million combined. Trump got suspended from these platforms for conduct related to the attack he incited on the Capitol. He sued. And one by one, these companies paid up to him personally and to his pet projects, like the Golden Ballroom. Twitter, now Elon Musk's X, settled for $10 million, a case a district judge had already thrown out, and that an appeals court was openly skeptical of. They paid anyway, and the president's response? He went on television to complain it was not enough, it was too low, that he was, quote, looking to get much more money than that. YouTube settled for $25 million. And in a flourish of creative accounting, $22 million of it was routed straight to the White House Golden Ballroom project. More on that ballroom in a minute. But Meta, parent company to Facebook and Instagram, they also settled for $25 million. And just to sweeten the pot, they kicked in an additional $1 million to Trump's inaugural fund. So let's recap just this item. The The president sues these platforms over their refusal to amplify his false claims about the election and his incitement of insurrection. Using the leverage he now has over them as president to help or to hurt their businesses, he extorts them to the tune of $60 million. It is a disinformation loyalty program, except the rewards go to the president, and the rest of us get more false claims, more false information, more social harms from an unregulated social media, and potentially more incitement of violence around our elections. This is the cost of that corruption. Number 7, Amazon and the Melania documentary, $40 million. For number 7, we move back to the family business. You may have seen the trailers. Amazon struck a $40 million deal with First Lady Melania Trump for a documentary about her life before and during her time in the White House. Reports indicate that Melania's team shopped the project to several studios and executives, many of whom had attended Trump's inauguration before Amazon closed the deal. And Amazon separately contributed another $1 million to Trump's inaugural fund. Of the $40 million, though, the First Lady personally received $28 million. The big-time theatrical run of this film brought in only $16 million at the box office, landing it at a sweet number 68 on the 2026 releases, behind Bunny, behind Guru, and behind Mobile Suit Gundam Hathaway, the sorcery of Nymph Circe. Bear in mind, the Melania movie was so bad that one reviewer at Variety said that if you saw it on a plane, you would still walk out. We may never know if taxpayers are getting ripped off and whether the true cost of the Melania film was a bad deal for the country, costing taxpayers billions of dollars on cloud computing that we didn't need to spend. This kind of corrupt contracting, whether taxpayer funds are wasted because of a backroom deal or a kickback, is common in developing countries. But it hasn't been common in here. Not until now, and that is the cost of corruption. Number 6 of the top 10 Trump graft schemes is the Trump meme coin, coming in at a whopping $635 million. Just 24 hours before taking the oath of office, Donald Trump launched a meme coin called Dollar Trump. A meme coin is a kind of a joke digital currency, but Trump saw the opportunity for personal profit, about $635 million worth. And the people on the other side of that trade, more than 810,000 of them, have lost a combined $2 billion. That's 810,000 people that bought this meme coin, this Trump meme coin, mainly the president's own supporters, lost money so the president could make hundreds of millions of dollars. But even that is not the end of the story. It gets worse. Trump hosted a private dinner for top holders of his meme coin. Investors were told they had a 2.5-week window to buy enough Dollar Trump to earn a seat. He created a public auction where what was being auctioned off was access to the president. Buy Trump's meme coin and you get to dine with the president. Where? At his own private club in Virginia. And among the guests, a crypto billionaire who'd been charged by the SEC with fraud, in a case in which Trump's SEC just coincidentally asked a judge to hit pause on the matter, just weeks before the meme coin dinner. This for a crypto billionaire who had poured some $75 million into Trump family crypto ventures. The cost of corruption here, hundreds of millions of dollars go to Trump, hundreds of thousands of Americans lose the value of their purchases, about $2 billion in total, and fraudsters get a pass to commit other frauds on the American people. More money for Trump, more fraud for you. This is the cost of corruption. Number 5, the White House ballroom, $600 million. Number 5 is one of the most audacious schemes in presidential history. the gold-plated, gilded, and gaudy White House ballroom. The president has solicited ever larger donations for this pet project, which now has a whopping price tag of $600 million. A $600 million monument to his vanity, built for him by people who need something from the government, and paid for by you, the taxpayer. Because far from the president's promise that no tax dollars would be used for his golden ballroom, he's making you pay an estimated $300 million of your tax dollars towards this project. Promises made, promises broken, and the taxpayer left holding the bag. Now, I've sought answers from the White House on this ballroom, asking who are the private donors and how much have they given and what businesses do they have, what business do they have before the federal government? Their response, not surprisingly, no response. But we know that there are at least 37 donors, among them Amazon and Apple and Google and Meta and Microsoft and Coinbase and Tether and Caterpillar and Lockheed Martin and T-Mobile and more. Of these corporate donors, 2/3 have been awarded federal contracts over the last 5 years, contracts worth $279 billion. And 14 of them are either facing or have had suspended federal actions for violations of the law. Trump even told these donors they'd be the first guest welcomed into the finished ballroom. Quote, "If I still like you at that time, which I'm sure I will." Translation, keep paying and I'll keep liking you. The cost of this corruption? Hundreds of millions in taxpayer funding that could go to building new hospitals in your community, or building new schools, or keeping the ones near you open, go to a ballroom instead. But instead of building roads or bridges, hospitals or healthcare clinics or childcare, the president is building a gaudy gold toll booth in place of the East Wing. And federal contracts are going to the biggest donors, not the best competitors, and that could cost you billions more in taxes. More money for Trump, more fraud for you. This is the cost of corruption. Number 4, of the top 10 Trump grift and graft, the Qatari jet, worth $400 million. Number 4 is the gift that keeps on taking. A $400 million luxury gift gifted by the government of Qatar to serve as Air Force One through the end of Trump's term, and then transferred to Trump's own museum foundation, his to keep. He took his maiden flight aboard it just a few weeks ago, and while the president insists the plane is free, outfitting it to serve Air Force One as Air Force One could cost American taxpayers up to $1 billion in security upgrades, $1 billion for this free jet that he gets to keep, paid for by you, the taxpayer, and his generous friends, the Qataris. And let's not pretend there's nothing expected in return. Trump himself volunteered that the United States provide security for Qatar and will continue to. He also explained that only a stupid person turns down a free, very expensive airplane. Only a stupid person would turn it down. How could he refuse? The cost of this corruption? American foreign policy. Our national security interests in the region now skewed towards a country that gives the president exorbitant gifts or develops real estate deals with his family. That is not putting America first, but putting it last, well behind his family and personal interests in a plane and golf courses. More money for Trump, more fraud for you. This is the cost of corruption. Which brings us to number 3. Big law firm deals worth $940 million. At 3, the numbers have turned even more staggering. After a barrage of executive orders targeting the legal profession, 9 wealthy law firms struck deals with the administration pledging nearly $1 billion in pro bono services to make those threats go away. Threats to disfavor their clients, threats to take their security clearances away so they couldn't represent other clients, threats to look unfavorably on the mergers their clients want, government contracts or lucrative deals favored by their clients. Now, this money didn't land directly in the president's bank account. This is value he extracted, nearly $1 billion in legal work, redirected to causes he favors, surrendered by law firms who were afraid of what he might do to them if they refused. And who negotiated these deals? Reportedly, Boris Epstein, the president's personal lawyer, not a government official, a private citizen allegedly shaking down America's largest law firms on the administration's behalf. $940 million extracted under threat, and all too easily complied with by firms that were unwilling to take a stand. It is a modern protection racket. What is the cost of this corruption? Well, law firms are silenced from representing clients whose interest may be averse to the president. That might be you one day. Businesses unable to get counsel because these law firms are too scared of crossing a vindictive president. That business may be your business one day. And the law firms that stood their ground and defied the president, they risk losing business in a corruption of the economy that only favors firms willing to capitulate to the president. More money for Trump, more fraud for you. This is the cost of corruption. Number 2, World Liberty Financial and stablecoin reserves, $1.5 billion and counting. We are now in the top 2. World Liberty Financial, the Trump family cash cow, a firm in which the Trump family holds an ownership interest of around 75%. The sale of these governance tokens has earned the family well over $1 billion. A single deal tied to a state-backed fund in the United Arab Emirates funneled $500 million into this venture. A single deal made by a wealthy sheik who is also the head of that country's intelligence service. What could go wrong? And in return, they just got American-made advanced AI chips, just like they wanted. Unlike the meme coin, this is real money. More than $1.5 billion and counting. Over $1.5 billion flowing to the president's family through a financial instrument his family controls, launched while he sits in the Oval Office. Not a side business, not a blind trust. The President of the United States using the power and prestige of his office to drive money into a venture he owns and from which he profits every single day. And consider what one of the family's business partners got in return. The world's largest crypto exchange, Binance, helped turn World Liberty's stablecoin from a small venture into one of the largest in the world, first by settling a $2 billion investment from an Abu Dhabi state fund in the Trump coin, then by building it into the exchange's own trading systems. And for that, the Trump family earns interest on every dollar used. And the founder of Binance, what did he get out of it? Well, he'd been convicted of money laundering crimes. He was facing the consequences until last October when the president pardoned him. A foreign-funded boost to the family business repaid with a presidential pardon. The cost of this corruption? Crooked deals to benefit convicted fraudsters. U.S. foreign policy for sale to the highest Gulf bidder. Less time, attention, and resources of the country focused on bringing down your costs, improving your quality of life, bringing back prosperity to America. More money for Trump, more fraud for you. This is the cost of corruption. Which takes us, ladies and gentlemen, to number 1, the crown jewel. The president, his IRS settlement, and the $1.7 billion slush fund. So here's the scheme. And you have to give the president credit for its audacity. The president sues the IRS, an agency run by one of his employees, one of his appointees, and represented by the Department of Justice, also run by one of his appointees. His lawyers bring the suit, and his lawyers defend the suit. He is functionally suing himself. And he, not surprisingly, settles with himself for a staggering amount. He gets an IRS get-out-of-jail-free card. He faces no audit or investigations for any prior tax fraud or underpayment that he, his kids, his businesses, or his associates have ever made or participated in, a deal estimated to be worth up to $100 million for the Trump family. Personally. It is a sham settlement, castigated by a federal judge as based on a suit brought wholly for an improper purpose, and a settlement that was the product of the worst form of collusion and self-dealing. But that is just the start. The $100 million tax get-out-of-jail-free card, only a start. The settlement also purports to give the president control over $1.776 billion of taxpayer money, which he gets to use as a personal slush fund to compensate his friends and allies who claimed that they have been wronged. Included among the aggrieved, people who violently attacked law enforcement officers on January 6th. Now, these people who attacked police officers on January 6th, they already got pardoned by the president on his first day. But that wasn't enough for them or for the president. They want to be paid for their acts of insurrection, and the president is willing to pay them with your tax dollars. The cost of this corruption, incalculable. Besides misappropriating billions of your money, it is also rewarding people seeking to overturn a free and fair election. If it succeeds in encouraging others to do so in the next election, the cost to you just may be our whole democracy. So let's add it up. Overseas licensing, $23 million. Media lawsuits, $36 million. Big tech settlements, $60 million. Amazon and Melania, $40 million. The meme coin, $635 million. The White House ballroom, $600 million. The Qatari jet, $400 million. Big law, $940 million. World Liberty Financial, $1.5 billion and counting. The IRS giveaway and slush fund, $1.7 billion and $100 million. For a grand total of $6 billion. And that, fellow Americans, is just the top 10. No one put this historic level of corruption in perspective better than the Vice President, J.D. Vance, who recently told a crowd that if Watergate took place today, it would be a 12-hour story. Think about that for a moment. If the president broke into the Democratic Party headquarters, bugged the place, used hush money to cover it up, used the CIA to thwart the FBI's investigation of it, lied to the country about it, J.D. Vance says that would be a mere blip on the screen for them today. He is telling us, the vice president is telling us, that the corruption of the Trump regime, his regime, is so pervasive, they have so successfully normalized it, that Nixon's behavior would seem quaint. Congratulations, J.D. You've made the most egregious corruption commonplace. Well done. You should be so very proud. When the founders gathered in Philadelphia in the sweltering summer of 1787, they debated a great many things. But one fear united them across every divide, the fear of corruption. They had just thrown off a king. They had risked everything, their lives, their fortunes, their honor, to build something new. A republic, a government of laws, not men. And they knew, with a clarity born of hard experience, that a republic would not long endure if leaders used public power for private gain. That's why they wrote a constitution of checks and balances, one that set the ambition of one branch of government against the other, and included provisions meant to address the personal weaknesses and failings of a president, any president. Because they understood human nature. They understood those in power would be tempted to enrich themselves. They understood that foreign governments would try to buy our leaders with gifts and payments and favors. They imagined something like what we are witnessing today. But what they may not have imagined, what they may have exceeded even their worst fears, was a president so brazen, so shameless, so relentless, and so creative in the pursuit of personal profit, and a Congress so feckless, so loath to confront him, so lacking an ambition for its own power and institution, so willing to let him profit at the public expense, with payout after payout after payout. In 1785, Benjamin Franklin was serving as our ambassador to France. The King of France gave him a gift, a snuff box encrusted with diamonds, a gesture of diplomatic friendship. In Paris, such gifts were routine, business as usual. But back home in America, it sparked a controversy. Franklin had to ask Congress for permission to keep it, and the Congress, then under the Articles of Confederation, granted it. But the concern that a leader less scrupulous than Franklin would be tempted, would be compromised, lingered. So when delegates gathered in Philadelphia 2 years later to write our Constitution, they remembered the snuff box. The first draft said nothing about foreign gifts or emoluments. The final draft did, because they remembered the snuff box. Edmund Randolph, one of the Constitution's framers, later explained it this way: this restriction was provided to prevent corruption. A box was presented to our ambassador by the king of our allies. It was thought proper in order to exclude corruption and foreign influence to prohibit anyone in office from receiving or holding any emoluments from foreign states. They wrote it into the Constitution because of a snuff box. Imagine. And now we have a president accepting a $400 million jet? Can you imagine what the founders would have thought of that? We have a president earning more than $1 billion from a cryptocurrency company his family controls, funded in large part by foreign interests. The founders understood that once you accept the first gift, the second becomes easier, and the third, and soon you're not making decisions based on what's right for the country, you're making them based on who's been generous to you as president. My colleagues, the White House has become a marketplace, and the presidency a crooked family business. Every one of these transactions, the dozens we know about and the many more we surely don't, raises profound questions about the influence of foreign governments and the buying and selling of American policy, American justice, and American democracy itself. Every single day this continues, our democracy is weakened, our institutions are compromised. The office of the presidency is degraded, and the costs come out of your pocket. Out of your pocket. But here's the thing. The founders, in their warning to us about corruption, also gave us the tools to fight it. They gave us a free press to investigate and expose it. They gave us a separation of powers so that no branch could become too powerful. We have those powers in this body to stop it, if only we will use them. And they gave us, above all, a government of the people, the ultimate authority, the final word. And it will take all of us demanding something better, voting for something better, refusing to accept that this is normal or inevitable or just the way things are. A 12-hour story. Our story is not 12 hours long, but 250 years old. It is the story of a country that began as an improbable experiment, where people believed that we had sufficient virtue to be self-governing, that we did not need to be ruled by a despot, a country where what's right matters, where the truth matters, and where decency, basic decency matters. That is the story of the birth of this country. And that can be the story of its future if we are willing to fight for it. Mr. President, I yield back.
Daar het jy dit, in 'n neutedop. Is jammer dit so 'n bietjie lank gevat, maar dit is die top 10 van Donald Trump. In absolute rekordtyd. Like never seen from before. Never seen from before. Amazing. Oh, beautiful. Dis wat gebeur as jy akteur in 'n conman jou president maak, wat die land moet bestuur. Vir almal binne in die land, vir die mense, en nie net vir homself, om sy sakke vol te prop, asof hy dit kan saamvat hemel toe nie. Liewe genade, wat dink die man, is hy onsterflik? Ons weet nie wat hy dink nie. Ek weet nie eens of hy ooit dink nie. Maar as jy nog steeds van mening is, dat hierdie man gaan na Suid-Afrika toe kom, en op ons neerdaal, soos 'n savior, 'n redder, droom voort. Dit wat hy gedoen het, verlede jaar, om Suid-Afrika te verdeel, want dis wat hy gedoen het. Hy het meningsopinies in Suid-Afrika verdeel, en hy het dit goed gedoen, hy het dit baie goed beplan, hy het dit goed gedoen, soos hy baie goeders doen. En, ja, daar is maar net 'n ou klein fasade. Ja, die mense in Suid-Afrika word bedreig. En daarom gee hy vir hulle soort van die asylum nie. Dis kom hulle wegbly van daai woordjie af. Ek gee hulle 'n plekkie in die son in Amerika, the greatest country in the world. En ek weet my vriend, jy ken mense daar, ek ken mense daar. It's not all bed of roses. As mense wat 2 tot 3 jobs daar so het, om in die lewe te bly. Dis hoe duur Amerika geword het. Die inflasiekoers daar is miskien nog erger as hier. Maar ons moet tweede viool speel, want ons moet die Amerikaanse dollar en die petrodollar en al daai goedjies moet ons die heeltyd subsidieer. Vir mense soos hierdie, om sy familie en sy vriende te verryk. That's it. Maar nie op baie nood, kom ek vat 'n moer koffie. Ek sien vir jou môreoggend op die trein. So 8 se kant, as stoot ons voort, uit die stasie uit, vir 2 ure lank. Sien jou daar. Onthou, moer koffie, altyd pure genot, voedsel vir die siel.
Die Moer Koffie Express, Saterdag van 8 tot 10. Een ontbijtprogram met 'n verskil. Aktueel, nostalgies, met dit sulkie moer. Alwyn met die omgekeerde W, mouton. Net hier op Radio Suid-Afrika.